Welcome to a brand new edition of Local Focus. I'm your host, Sebastian Noel. We are turned the page officially on basketball season and the baseball. We're in the midst of it now. Be sure to go to our website at provinetworks.com. Check out our broadcast schedule. Very excited to have Anthony Delangel of the Cleveland Storm with me. Man, I'm a big fan, first of all. That's why I wanted to have you in here. Arguably the best hitter in the state, right? I think it's okay to say that, right? I mean, let's start there, man. Like, you're offensively, just talk about how, I guess I want to formulate my question this way. How did this swing come about? Take me into the mechanics of your swing.
You know, growing up, it was just like, I picked up a baseball bat and just started swinging and swinging, and I just fell in love with it, right? And eventually, like, to me, it's not necessarily like analytics and like, the science behind it necessarily. It's just like for me, my approach is, get a good pitch, be on time, and square it up. And for me, I like to create as much chaos in practice so that way in the game, it's like, it's easy, it's simple, right? So in practice, it's like you want to make it hard so that way in the game you're comfortable, right?
So if your parents showed me little league videos of you swinging, and don't get scared, we don't have those. But if I saw little videos of you swinging as a little leaguer, would the swing look the same? Has it changed over time?
Honestly, I think it's probably similar.
Okay.
And it's funny, I was talking to one of my friends about this the other day, and it's like, I think it's similar because I don't like to change too much. It's kind of like you just repeat it over and over again, and eventually it just becomes natural.
And the reason I wanted to talk about the swing first is because the ball just sounds different when it comes off your bat, right? And I just got back from spring training in Arizona. It was very similar. Ellie De La Cruz hit one that, like, just the sound of it from our seats, it just sounded different than everyone else's, off the bat. So that's why I wanted to talk about the swing, and I want to get into it a little more, right? So have you always had the kind of the little timing mechanism with the front leg? Has that always been there?
Yeah, so for me, like, everybody has like their leg kick, or their toe tap. I like to have like a toe tap so that way, not too much head movement, just kind of, that way it's like a lot easier to time the ball, right? So like that's my biggest thing, just to be on time.
Right. And I mean, and that can be difficult with the toe tap or with, because I remember Chipper Jones talking about his toe tap. The few times he would go into a slump, it was usually something toe tap related, right? Because that could throw off his timing. Talk about that a little bit.
Right. So my biggest thing is like, and that comes with like pre-game intel, and our coaches do a great job with like scouting teams and preparing us for our next game, right? So you get that intel and you just practice it before the games, so that way in the game you're prepared, right?
And it kind of like, do you have a kind of a list of some things that are going through in your mind, or maybe that you go through in the cage, like, okay, like, all right, I gotta get my foot down, I gotta get everything to the backside, I gotta square up here, I gotta extend, like, what's kind of your checklist, whether it's in the cage or whether it's when you're watching your swing on film or whether it's in the game? What's kind of your checklist of things that are going right on your swing, that need to go right?
Right. So my biggest thing is, like, before the game or in BP, my biggest thing is to stay inside the baseball and like drive line drives to the right side of the field, right? So, BP, should never be meant to like, try to hit bombs and do all this stuff. My biggest thing is to hit low liners like through the second baseman's head. And
Has that always been your approach? Did you get that from somewhere?
yeah, so a lot of my like hitting instructors or even my coaches, like our coaches are big on it. They always say like stay through the right side of the field, and that pulling a ball is a reaction, right? It's a reaction, and like if you practice staying through the ball onto the right side of the field, everything will just translate into the game.
The reason I ask is because one of the best hitters in the game, Freddie Freeman, he talks about that a lot, right? And obviously he's a lefty, but he's talking about when he's BP, it's all line drives over the shortstop. And he said if he hits it anywhere else, something's wrong. And he feels like that's when his swing is locked in, when he's just hitting line drives over the shortstop.
Right. And that's one of my big things is like I've gone to like even a few games, like MLB games that I've gone to. Like you watch like the best hitters like Tatis, Machado, Freddie Freeman. It's like you look at their BP and it's almost not even like entertaining, right? It's like it's always like staying to the right side of the field, and then you watch them play in the game, and it's like insane. They're hitting bombs, and
yeah,
like,
BP shouldn't be entertaining, right?
Exactly.
If it's entertaining, you're probably doing something wrong in BP, right?
Right.
So what are you working on in BP? Like if I came to watch you take BP tomorrow, what would I see?
You just see me trying to stay to the right side of the field, try to keep the ball lower, and hit line drives mostly.
And what else? What else in that swing? I mean, you talked about kind of staying inside the ball. Anything else on that checklist for you?
I try to keep hitting as simple as possible because it's already hard enough, right?
Right.
So, I think it's just staying to the right side of the field, and like I said earlier, get a good pitch, be on time, and put a barrel on it.
How has over time hitting has really changed, right? Like I mean, there's so much analytics in it now, right? Like, and I don't even know what most of it means, honestly. Like launch angle, this, all that. Like, has that made its way to the high school level? Has that made its way to when you're working in a cage? Like, are you looking at a bunch of numbers, or are you just swinging?
I think it's made its way through high school baseball, and that's cool and all. But like for me personally, like I don't pay too much attention to it. My biggest thing is like you can worry about all this like launch angle and exit velo, but like none of that really like matters too much in the game, because in the game, I mean, you're just trying to get a barrel on the ball. You're trying to square a baseball up.
Right.
So that's what like you can get into launch angle and like you gotta be here, right? Or you gotta be here, spin rate, all this stuff. But in reality, it's like
It's still as simple as squaring up the ball, is what you're saying.
exactly.
So, I mean, a lot of that other stuff can really distract you too, right? Because, like, I'm sure you get in a cage, you start looking at some of those numbers, and can that mess with someone's swing, you think?
I think so because, like, if you're in a cage and let's say you're trying to, hit a exit velo PR. Well, if you're trying to get an exit velo PR, what are you gonna do? You're gonna swing as hard as you can in the cage. When in the game, you're not gonna swing as hard as you can.
Right.
So I think sometimes you get distracted in like, maybe PRs or exit velo and stuff like that, but it doesn't really translate over into the game.
Right. So if you're taking BP in the field, we kind of talked about that a little bit, but I know you do a lot of work in the cage as well. So what does cage work look like for you?
Cage work, one thing me and my dad do is we do like situational hitting even in the cage. And with that, when I say that, I mean like, first we'll warm up, and what I usually do is I get like these goggles that like flicker, right? And when I say like hit with chaos in the cage and make it hard, is like they'll flicker and you got to hit like a baseball with these goggles on, right? So it makes it harder to hit the baseball. And then from there, he'll start throwing to me and whatnot, and we'll work situational hitting like 3-0, 2-1, 0-2. One thing we'll do sometimes is he'll say, you know what, I want you to hit anything I throw to you, whether it's, a ball in the dirt or over your head, like, find a way to barrel the ball, right? So I think that helps me a lot, when I go into the game.
Right.
And then
how has this chaos philosophy, you mentioned that a couple of times, so how has that kind of helped you?
I think it helps me because like it's like all about baseball's about adapting, right? So can I, you're not going to get a good pitch all the time, and you're not always going to get your A swing off, right? So can I still find a way to hit, a slider low and away and still find a way to get a barrel in it, right? Or and then when you do get that one down the middle, it's easy and it's simple, but what I like to do is create that chaos so that way even the hard pitches are easier to get to.
Right. And has that always, when did you start doing that?
I focus on it a lot more in recent years. So I'd say more high school. The situational hitting I think I've probably done since I was really little, 8 years old.
Right.
And I think doing that has helped me just even over the years.
When you've gone into a slump, and I know that hasn't happened very often, but when you go into a slump, what do you usually attribute that to? Is it the swing? Is it pitch recognition? Is it a little bit of everything? Is it the timing? Is it the toe tap like we talked about? What would you identify? What's usually the first thing you look at when you are quote unquote slumping?
Yeah, so when I'm slumping, sometimes it's just mental, right? So what I like to do is sometimes I'll get video and go back to what I was doing when I was doing good, and I'll just analyze, right? What was I doing then? How did I feel at that time? And I'll try to usually that's the point I have to try to get back to is what can I do to get to that point again?
Right. I want to pick it up from there when we get back. We'll take our first break. We'll come back, talk a little more hitting after this.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
The Yeller Sub, located on 7200 Montgomery Boulevard, serves breakfast all day long along with classic hot and cold subs. Don't forget about our shakes, malts and floats made with your favorite Bluebell ice cream. 45 years and still going strong. Come on down to the Yeller Sub, official sandwich of ProView Networks.
Hi, my name is Ruben, and I'm with the New Mexico Educational Assistance Foundation. We are proud sponsors of high school and college sports. Either college or trade, we can help you find the funding you need. Go to nmfafsa.org. That's nmfafsa.org.
I'm a Blaze King customer, and I have been for the last 10 years. Blaze King stoves are very efficient, they're easy to maintain, and they use a lot less wood than you would typically use with a fireplace.
Blaze King, that's a fire.
The heat is on when it's a Blaze King wood stove, controlling heat up to 40 hours on a single load of wood with a built-in thermostat. See for yourself at either Blaze King showroom, Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Blaze King, and now that's a fire.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, red and green chili breakfast burritos, and frontier sweet rolls. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs are proud supporters of ProView Sports.
Back with Cleveland's Anthony DelAngel. We are talking some hitting, but since you're kind of the quiet superstar, I think this would be the good time to put the top 5 in. Top 5 things we don't know about you. Number 5.
Let's see, number 5. I think one thing that people don't know about me is I like to cook. I feel like I'm kind of good at cooking, and I think I learned it from my mom. I love my mom's cooking. I love it. It's amazing.
Okay.
And I think she's helped me. I think it's a nice talent to have because I'm at home. She's
Right.
not, and when she's not home, I can make something, and then it'd still be pretty good or decent.
Yeah, no, it's survival skills. Yeah, you need them in college. You'll need them in the minor leagues, so that's good. All right, so what are some of your go-tos?
I like to make pasta sometimes.
Okay.
Usually I'll make, I think my go-to is always a bowl, right?
All
So
right.
I'll get some rice, some beans going, and usually I like to make my bowl with steak.
Okay, all right.
And then I'll get some guac going.
Okay,
and
all right.
put all that together.
All right, those are survival skills you need to have. Number 4.
4. Both my parents played Division I sports, so I kind of get that edge and all that experience and those stories. So that's I feel like that's cool to have. And
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about that. Talk about what sports they played.
so my dad played football in college, and so I get all like the sideline stories. And he was a strength and conditioning coach after college at Auburn,
Okay.
and that was like so. Growing up, we're always at the Auburn games, and I'm on the sidelines running around. And
So is it a big SEC house at home?
yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All right.
But like even the stories they always tell me about being at Auburn, it's like always cool to hear.
Okay. All right. What about mom?
Mom, she played volleyball in college,
Okay.
and that's that's how they met. And she was always telling me about her stories that for the volleyball team, and how college was as an experience, as a whole. So that's always cool to hear.
So did you play those two sports growing up?
So my dad never let me play football, right?
Okay.
So growing up, I think that takes me on to three. Is like I used to wrestle.
Okay.
A lot.
Number 3, you used to wrestle. All right.
I feel like I used to be a decent wrestler, and
Okay.
so I used to do wrestling. I did basketball, baseball. I played like flag football, but that was about
Okay.
it.
Yeah, Coach Jimenez was telling me the other day that you dunked as a freshman, and he did not recall coaching a freshman that dunked in a game, and he was kind of telling me that you were probably one of his most athletic basketball guys. So tell me about this dunk.
I was just always trying to like mess around, and that was like my fun sport. You go out there and it's just fun to be around and dribble the ball and shoot the ball. And I think it was like the warm up one day, and I was just messing around, and I tried to dunk it, and I got it.
Okay, and when did you kind of say, all right, basketball career over?
I think it was after my freshman year, and I was like, I'm gonna try to focus on baseball now and hone in on that.
Is there anything Coach Cole could say, because Coach Cole and I are pretty close friends, is there anything Coach Cole could say to convince you to change your mind?
It's funny. He's always out there asking me like, "Hey, you trying to? What are you thinking about this year, man?" And it's like it's hard because I want to play. I want to go out there and dribble the ball around,
Right.
but I feel like sometimes it's like you just got to focus on baseball.
Right, absolutely, yeah. Okay, so that basketball career is over. All right, number 2.
Let's see. One thing I love to do is just like on the weekends, right? I like to, invite all the baseball guys over, and we'll always like make some food, and we'll go out on my patio, and we'll get a fire going, and we'll put some fights on, and we'll just, have a good time. And I always like to do that. It's like good team chemistry, and it's like.
Does that end in the cage? Because I heard you guys have a pretty nice cage at your house. Coach Jimenez gave me the full scouting report on you, man. So, yeah, I heard you have a pretty nice batting cage set up at your house, too. So do those meetings usually end up in the batting cage?
Sometimes, sometimes a lot of the guys will ask me, like, let's go hit, man. And, we'll go out and we'll hit in the cage, and we'll hit, and then we'll go outside and just chop it up from there.
Right. So this is apparently not just some netting hanging from some 2x4s. It's pretty nice, I hear.
Yeah, I mean, it gets the job done, right?
Gets the job done, right? All right. What's the number one thing we don't know about you?
Number one thing, I go to church every Sunday.
Okay.
Always have to make time for God, right?
Okay. How does that impact your athletic performance? How do you keep yourself grounded on the ball field with your religion?
I just feel like you got to keep God in your life, and baseball is going to end one day, right? And it's good to have God on your side, right?
Right. Okay. All right. Those are 5 good ones. Let's pick it up where you kind of mentioned video a little bit, and so that got me curious. How much video makes it into high school baseball, right? Because when you think about film, you think football right away. Okay, film study. You think basketball, a lot of film study. How has video and video preparation crept its way into high school baseball?
I think video preparation, like for games, is like so you'll see these pitchers, right, and you get to see like their pitching sequences. Where does the catcher like to set up for those pitchers? So that kind of gives you an idea of like what you're gonna get in the game, right? You're what does this pitcher throw? Where is he going to throw it? Where does he like to set up on these types of hitters, right? So it gives you a good idea of what you're going to get in the game. So that's the stuff you would like to study for.
Right.
That makes
So
sense.
most of your film work then is pitchers, or are you doing a lot of film work with your own swing too, or mostly pitches?
Mostly pitches, and then like for hitters, it's kind of like the opposite, right? Like, is this hitter pull happy? Does he push a lot? Does he bunt a lot?
Right.
So that type of video, like from hitters, kind of like helps the defense more, right?
One thing I wanted to ask you about, I guess you're probably pretty locked in on the diamond, but I noticed it a lot. Well, I noticed it a little bit last year's state championship game, and I really noticed it this last week at the Sal Puentes. Can you, when you're up there this year especially, I noticed it, like the oohs and ahs just on foul balls. Like, can you feel how locked in the crowd is on your at bats?
You know, when you're in the box, it's like a competition between you and the pitcher. So like everything like external just kind of like zones out, and you're just like locked in on the pitcher, you know. You're locked in the at bat, and you like everything just kind of fades away. So it's like me and the pitcher only.
Right.
And
it's just kind of, and the only reason I brought it up is because like during the Sal Puentes, during one of the at bats, it's funny because literally like the crowd will stop talking to each other. They'll stop, you know, like, and all of a sudden everyone's kind of locked in, right? And then I remember you had a foul ball and everyone was like, ooh, ah, right? And then, you know, after your bat's over, then everyone's back to just regular watch mode. But, you know, but during that moment, it was like all eyes locked in. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are now that I brought it to your attention. Do you think it's cool?
I mean, it's, you know, it's cool.
I mean, you're that guy in the lineup, right? Obviously, that
and,
because
you know,
the same attention you command from that crowd, we'll turn it back on the diamond since you want to be on the diamond. You're getting that same attention from the opposing pitcher every day this year, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's got to be tough. Like knowing that you might have one or two pitches a game. You know, you're not. You talked about the one in the middle. You're not seeing those in the middle, right? Like you're literally. I mean, what do they give you? 2 pitches to hit that championship game, if that?
Something like that.
I mean, how hard is that to stay locked in?
You know, it kind of goes back to approach. You can't like get outside of
Right.
you know what your approach is, and that's part of like staying locked in when you know all this external stuff is going on. Is like at the end of the day, you're just trying to help your team out, right? So you can't get ahead of yourself. You can't get too big. You know, you just got to stay within yourself, and like you have to stay within yourself and not do too much. So you're still looking for a specific pitch,
Right.
and you know, even when they're not giving you those pitches, you got to take what you can get. So if they're not throwing strikes, then you know you walk.
Right.
That's where you got to kind of mature and just do your damage on the base path, right?
Your championship game, were you surprised you got a hittable pitch on that? What is it, 3-0 count? I was like shocked because the first 3 weren't close, and then you got a hittable pitch, and obviously you hit it. Were you surprised in that at bat?
No, because you know that's where you got to stay like in the at bat, and
Right.
when you do get one, you got to be ready for it. You can't fall asleep, right?
And then have you kind of, could that throw you into a slump? I mean, let's talk hypothetically, right? Could that throw you into a slump? Because I mean, I'm thinking just, man, you could get impatient, right? Like I haven't seen a pitch to hit in 3 games. You start extending the zone, right? Like you have to really fight getting into a slump because of that.
You know, maybe, but like that's where like you can't think about it either too much
Right.
because it's like, you know, if you get that's where you got to stay within yourself. You can't get frustrated, you can't get angry. You just got to kind of like continue to like stay locked in, you know, continue to prep before the game and you know, continue to work on what you always work on because at the end of the day like eventually you're going to get one.
Right.
So you got to be ready for it.
What talk a little bit, shifting a little bit. Committed already, obviously, right? Talk about that. I mean, you got recruited early and often. So talk about that.
Yeah, so when I was talking to Oklahoma, I was talking to all the coaches, and, when I went down to Norman, that was like, I'm looking at the campus, I fell in love with it, like immediately, like I fell in love with it. And then, after talking to the coaches, it was like I want to be part of this environment. Growing up with my club team out in Dallas, it's like always, it's kind of like a hard-nosed like team, right? They get after you, right? And like it's almost like that environment where you're not good enough yet. And that's kind of what I liked about OU is like they're like, we want guys who can compete. We don't want guys who think they're all that, or like we want guys who are going to compete every day, come here every day, and get after it. So that's what I fell in love with. And then I talked to the players, and they're all so cool. Like they're just
right.
They're great guys to talk to. You get into those like hour-long conversations, and then
What other did you take any other visits? What other visits did you take? Who else was on that short list at the time?
I went on a couple, but I think OU was like the big one, and it felt like the best decision at the time.
They say you just kind of know, right?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And how cool was it to get that out of the way early, though? I mean, I don't think a lot of people don't have that luxury, right? So like you got that out of the way.
It's nice because you made the decision, you feel good with it, and it's kind of like you feel like at ease, right? You can like focus on baseball again, right? But for me, I felt comfortable with the decision. I like my decision, and I'm going to stick to it.
With it, though, also the other side of that coin, right? Some pressure, obviously, right? You commit so early to a very good baseball school. There has to come some pressure with that, right? Because obviously, they're going to be checking in, and if you're putting up golden sombreros every day, they're going to think twice, right? So talk about the pressure that comes with that.
I mean, I talk to the assistant coach every day. We have good conversations, and even if I'm like something, right? I'll ask him questions, right? And sometimes he gives me like the numbers of the guys that go there, and I'll ask them questions like, what are some things you do before you're at bat, or how are you doing with this? How are you dealing with this? It's like, and then they help me with that, and I think even stuff like that helps me on the field, and like it makes me feel better, right? So then, I don't think it's too much like pressure, but like sometimes it's just about like maybe asking certain people, and then that'll help come back and help me, if that makes sense.
Right. All right. Well, lastly, what's the baseball dream? Growing up, what was it? What is it now? Has it changed over time? What are we going to be looking at in 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 years? What's that baseball dream for you?
Ever since I was 4 and I picked up a baseball bat, I told my dad, this is what I want to do, and I want to be an MLB player one day, and I don't think anything's changed really.
Right. All right. In those dreams, what jersey were you wearing?
Any, really. I mean, I grew up a Cubs fan, so I always wanted to be a Cubs player, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for making some time, and we're gonna continue to watch this journey, I should say, because I think you're well on your way. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching, everybody. Good night.